cooking, good looking! Today is all about one of the prettiest games I've had the pleasure to play in quite some time. Kena Bridge of Spirits really can't deny where it's coming from. Its creators, emberlab, started out as an animation studio and not as a gaming studio. The game is beautiful, breathtaking at times even, but there are a couple game design weaknesses. However, those little black spirit blobs, the rot, make up for a lot, and that's why they are the inspiration behind today's dish. Black Squid Ink pasta, orecchiette to be exact, with basil pesto. Here's what you'll need for it: squid ink, pine nuts, semolina, water, mozzarella, fresh basil, parmesan, olive oil and garlic. Check out the recipe in the description for the exact amounts. Before I'm going to get my hands all dirty, and trust me, you can't work with ink without getting them dirty, I'm going to give you a quick intro to this game. At times it actually feels a bit like a playable Pixar movie, but Kena Bridge of Spirits is a story-driven, emphasis here, action-adventure set in a lush forest. The namesake protagonist, Kena, is a so-called spirit guide, and she's on her way to the sacred mountain shrine. On this journey, she stumbles upon an abandoned village, and she decides to help the wandering souls still lingering there. Got all of that? Great. Time to get dirty. First of all, go get a big bowl and pour in the semolina, followed by the ink and water. Grab a fork and roughly combine the ingredients. By the way, if you don't like fish or fishy flavors, the ink will not be tasteable later. Dust your workspace with some more semolina and dump the bowl's contents on top of it. Now it's time for a little workout. Knead the ingredients for at least 5 minutes, no cheating, till you have a smooth result. Once you can make dents in your dough ball that spring back immediately, wrap it in clingfilm and put it in the fridge for at least 30 minutes while you prepare the pesto. And before I forget, you can easily wash the ink from your hands. Don't worry. If you are a big warrior in general, the non-violent parts of today's game have some almost meditative qualities. Kena herself actually meditates every now and then to increase her health pool. And on the lowest difficulty setting, not even the fighting is a source of stress. However, the battles might end up as nothing more than an annoying distraction, because on easy, well, they are easy and therefore quite boring. Especially at the beginning of the game, when you can only hit enemies with your stuff and command your rot buddies to annoy them. If you want to actually experience the admittedly quite varied boss fights, I can't recommend the highest difficulty setting enough. It has its own challenges, namely weird counter timing, but some bosses turn into Souls-like level challenges, which is just not something I expected from this game, and it was a positive surprise. No matter which route you're choosing, fighting does get more interesting the further you progress. The bow and the bombs you unlock later add another fun layer of mechanics. Confession time, I almost exclusively focused on said bow, because A, I prefer ranged combat, and B, the adaptive triggers of the PS5 controller make shooting arrows feel so good. However, while I had fun and appreciated the boss density and their uniqueness, I could have done with some less fighting against the standard enemies. Those battles often felt like filler content, and I would have much rather spent more time exploring, solving puzzles, and using my bow to hookshot around the forest Legend of Zelda style. Enough game design roasting though. Roast the pine nuts in a dry pan on medium heat instead. Next, peel the garlic cloves and dice them. No need for precision or finesse, because they'll go in a blender anyway. Cut the mozzarella into slices and set the 2 biggest center slices aside for later. Chop the rest of the cheese. Kill a whole pot of basil. Trust me, the stems taste just as good as the leaves once blended. Which is actually the next step. Surprise! Add the basil, the garlic and half the pine nuts to your blender and go for it. A hand blender obviously works just as well. Add the chopped mozzarella, salt and pepper to taste, the parmesan and finally the olive oil. Blend everything into a paste. Add more oil if necessary till the pesto is nice and smooth. Then refrigerate it till it's needed. You can store this pesto in your fridge for a couple days. However, in my experience, it does taste best when freshly made and eaten right away. And it's not like it's taking that long, which is actually a similarity that it does share with the game we're talking about today. If you're sticking to the main storyline, Kena Bridge of Spirits will set you back about 10 hours, which is not that much considering that you'll spend quite some time watching cutscenes. Obviously, this number will go up if you decide to see everything, unlock everything, and collect everything. Like those cute, adorable little hats for your equally as adorable little rot buddies. And speaking of black blobs, now it's time to get the dough out of the fridge. Unwrap your dough ball, quarter it, rewrap 3/4 and put them back into the fridge. Maybe even go for half a quarter for the first couple rounds of pasta making, because it will probably take you a bit to get the technique right. I know it did for me. And the dough will dry out outside the fridge. In any case, roll your chosen piece of dough into a thin log. Cut the dough into pieces that are roughly 1 centimeter long and set them aside. Now the fun part. Place one piece in front of you. Using a butter knife, press down on the end of the dough and move the knife forward so the dough stretches and curls over the knife. Unroll the orecchiette over your thumb like a little hat, but not all the way. Then set it aside and repeat with the rest of the dough. It's definitely a bit tricky, but I'm 100% sure that you'll get the hang of it in no time. Plus, visuals aren't everything, so your pasta will taste great even if it doesn't look perfect. Emberlab might also have to revisit that lesson, because graphics aren't everything. Don't get me wrong, the sound design is also noteworthy, and I spent long moments just taking in the atmosphere, for example when I stumbled into a thunderstorm. But I'm just not a big fan of games being interactive movies. And Kena Bridge of Spirits sometimes felt like that, with one cutscene after the other. Its story is nice enough, dealing with solidarity, friendship, souls and letting go. But it never really managed to touch me? Kena herself was probably my biggest issue. Her character is just a bit bland. I felt completely detached from her, which came as quite the shock, because after the trailers, I was pretty sure I'd fall in love with her. I also expected more open world, less open tube. And when the game repeatedly didn't let me leave the water in spots that definitely looked like I should have been able to, yeah, that bothered me. All these things are probably attributable to Kena being Emberlab's first game. Obviously, when you're making animated shorts for example, commercials, you can design an on-rail experience. You don't have to worry about those pesky gamers trying to break away from your carefully laid out plans. I'm guilty of doing just that. I needed that chest I saw on a little island in the middle of stuff that practically screamed deadly. And I got it, but then I was stuck there. Without a lucky save before, I would have had to redo everything up to this point, or the only gameplay left would be drowning. Which is actually kind of what awaits the orecchiette now. Pour water into a medium pot till it's roughly half full. Salt it generously and bring it to a boil. Then add the orecchiette. Cook the pasta for about 5 to 8 minutes till it's al dente. Then strain the orecchiette and place them on 2 plates. Add half the pesto to the top of the plate and half the pine nuts where the horns are. Half the leftover mozzarella slices you set aside and place them on the pasta as eyes. 2 orecchiette on top as pupils and some basil leaves as a final touch. Decorating is obviously completely optional. You could also just take everything and dump it on a plate and it will taste just as good. However, the main rot from the game was the inspiration behind this dish, and what can I say, I just love those adorable little blobs. In my opinion, the whole game could have just been focused on them. Like, no Kena fighting at all, just give me Pikmin style gameplay and I would be totally happy. Who knows, maybe the next game from Emberlab will be just that. Yes, I've been listing a couple weaknesses that this game, in my opinion, has. However, it's still a fantastic debut for a company that never before made a game. So, let me tell you, I am very excited to see more from them. That's it for today. I hope you will enjoy eating this unique pasta dish as much as I enjoyed coming up with it. The recipe is, as always, in the description down below. And if you decide to give it a shot, why don't you send me a picture or tag me in one? I would absolutely love that. And while you're at it, don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe. Maybe even ring the bell so you get notified about future videos. Thank you so much for watching. Hope your day is as good as gold. See you next time.